Hey guys, like you can see, we're checking out a house on a lake out here in Dowagiac. Beautiful lake, beautiful property. It's got an older roof, so a couple of things right off the bat. It does look like it's just the one layer. You can see some subfascia kind of exposed right there underneath this gutter. Not a huge big deal, but something we'll probably talk to the customer about. The moss and everything you can see is pretty dramatic. I mean, obviously there's a lot of tree coverage here. We'll be a little creative with getting on the roof today. But this moss, really consistent on the whole roof line. I mean, obviously it's from the trees just beating up the shingle. From there, as we start to go up, we can see the same kind of stuff is happening, pretty prevalent, like what we're starting to see here. We're starting to get some blow-offs and some shingles starting to be missing, a couple different spots. Again, looks like it is just the one layer. On the underside here, we can see we've got wood decking exposed. Nice thing with that is that obviously we've got some airflow into the house, but we can see that it is sheeted with OSB, so we don't have to worry about planking or anything like that. Once we come up on the roof, this east corner is a little bit better off, and I think obviously because of the trees, but you can still see how the moss and everything starting to build up, and there are starting to be some blow-offs in a couple different spots with some shingles missing, so that's pretty prevalent. A couple of things that I'm seeing there, the shingles look to be nailed a little high, not terrible, but it might be something that's kind of adding to everything getting blown off here. The rest of the roof line, like you can see, pretty much the same with the moss and everything really starting to build up on here. The north side of the roof, not as dramatic with the moss, not as dramatic with the blow-offs. Big reason for that, I believe, is obviously going to be the sap starting to just deteriorate the shingles on this side of the roof. Once the wind hits them, it's probably picking up a little bit more because of the moss, and then from there it's got a little bit extra drag to it, so the wind's able to rip it. But outside of that, you can see we got just roof felt down right here, so there's definitely water starting to come in. Outside of that, obviously nail heads exposed, like what you're starting to see here. Obviously once these nails are penetrating through the shingle, over time they're going to raise and lower. That's going to be the one negative with doing a layover, is once you can start to see these nail heads exposed, these areas are going to raise and lower over the next few years. So yes, you could come through and pound the nails that are exposed flat, in the hopes that you know, the system will be able to lay over the top of the current shingle. But the negative, again, with doing the layover is a couple things. One, you just have roof felt on the roof, so instead of the roof felt, you don't have ice and water protection up those first few rows or courses. The snow is going to continue to deteriorate these shingles quickly. This is a non-dimensional 3-tab shingle. Overall, I can't imagine that the roof's, I guess I don't want to put a life expectancy on it. We'll talk to the customer a little bit about it, but I would have to think the roof is somewhere around 15 to 20 years old. It's just beginning to fail, I think, a little bit more quickly just due to the tree coverage, but we'll talk to the customer a little bit and see if they know the age of the current layer. We can see some curling starting to happen on the edges here, and like I was referencing earlier, with having just the roof felt on there, we just don't have the same kind of protection or you know, the code standards that we'd like to have to bring the house up to current code. We've included adding that ice and water shield on those first few feet to make sure that those courses are there, so as the snow and everything sits on this roof, that it's protected. There's definitely some options with the shingles as far as going with an algae protected, like mold and mildew resistant type of a product. From there, we can kind of talk to the customer about some different options and see what interest you might have in what. Otherwise, the lower portion here of the shed, I'm assuming we're doing as well. That's obviously very straightforward. One big thing with this house that is a little unique, no ventilation currently, no box vents, no ridge vent, nothing. So we'll definitely want to do an attic inspection if there is one. If there's not one, we'll talk to the customer about including the ridge vent in there. But we'll just want to make sure that that configuration makes sense with the current venting that's built in the home. There is obviously, like I said, airflow coming up from the soffits in the soffitted area, but we want to make sure that all that's working consistently together, and now we're not creating a negative pressure, negative air drag situation.